Okay, today we're going to scout another piece of big woods, low land. Again, I'm going to take the transitions and I'm going to be looking for bedding and any buck sign, rubs, scrapes, and general deer sign. Looking for tracks. Typical scouting run to see what's here. It's a new piece for me I want to check out today. And I'll kind of narrate as I go. Talk about what I see and so forth. So come on along and let's go check out this area. One thing I like to do is keep an eye open for food sources. It's good to know where the deer are going to be feeding. This here, I don't even know what this is. This is dogwood or what even we call it, red brush, because of course it's red. I've called that my whole life. But if you look closely, you can see the deer have ate off every bud. Every one of these is nibbled off. They love this stuff. They love this, what I call the red brush. If anybody knows what the technical term is, you can let me know. But all this, you find this deer love to feed on this. I've even seen them break the branches down so they can reach them and then chew on them. You can see there, the deer nipped off every one of these. I hit this swampy area. I want to follow the transition, but I also want to dive into the middle of this because right away what caught my attention was this oak tree here. There's a few islands out here. Very good bedding areas. Here's a really nice trail coming in. See if I can get the camera on it. Nice trail coming in right here. Going into this little island here. So we'll go and investigate. See if Mr. Big is calling this his home. See, I came from that way. As you can see, there's a lot of nice oak trees and so forth. And then they've got this red brush in here to nibble on. So that's where the deer are going to go. And there was quite a few trails back there. There's a lot of deer here in this particular spot. But they'll push back into these areas like this for security and bedding. And of course you can see their trails coming out. And let's say, for instance, there is a decent buck bedding on this island here. Then you've got that nice trail coming out. Then you just need to make a choice. You need to pick a tree. Something that's close to the edge, but not too close. And of course what I would do is if I did find a decent bed, if it looked like there was a decent buck using this, I would take a lot more time and I would really dissect this and look for every trail coming out of here. Look for rubs on the trails. See if I can determine a pattern. But you just pick a tree back a ways further and set up and watch it. So let's go in there and see if there's any beds. Nice little trail coming in here. Actually, a couple of them. Look at the bed right there, right underneath this underneath this big oak tree. I don't know how well the camera picks that up. I'll walk around. There's a really nice well-defined bed right there. Here, there's a trail coming in. Real worn trail coming in here. And then there's a bed. And this kind of dead ends. See, that's another thing you're going to find with these beds too. Is it'll be like a big trail and then it just stops. And that's a good indication that there's a bed there. That they come in so far, they're using it to come in and out, and then it just kind of stops. But I mean, you can really see this deer is laying right here or right here. I don't know, I gotta bend over maybe a little bit. Right here, right here, and then right there. And there's some nice sized poop there too. I should pick that up. Actually, that's a pretty good sign. Nice size. I don't know if the camera can see that. Definitely a mature deer, not a young one. This holds a lot of promise. I definitely got to mark this one down. This is definitely worth a hunt. Wow, nice. There's also smaller turds in here too, so there's other deer using this as well, if that is a buck. Now there's a nice run coming in right here, and there's another run coming in from over here. See, there's another island right here now too. I'm gonna have to stop on that one too. Yep, I'm gonna have to mark this one on my GPS and look this over a little closer. Yeah, I like this trail coming in. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but boy, there's a nice trail coming right in, and it kind of dead ends right there. Walk this thing back a little bit. There's looks like maybe a bed right here too as well, but not real prominent. See, a deer like this he can get up and mill around and eat this red brush like this right here in front of me here. He's got something to drink. He's got the swamp. He's got it all. He has it all. See, there's another trail coming in through here. Another trail coming in right through here. And then continuing on to the next island there. But I like this little, usually what I find is there's a little out of the way spots. The chances of me finding a nice bed on that island are less as far as a mature buck. Because it seems like the bigger the piece, the more activity, the less they like it. This is kind of a little bitty spot that they can just honker down in here and nobody bothers them. These other deer that come from this island, they walk right through and they leave them alone. Yet from his bed there, he can watch this way too. He can scent check from that direction, which is your predominant wind. And then he can sit and he can watch to a certain degree this area out here. One thing I do know about their bedding as well is they like to find these little spots, but they like to find a spot where they have some visibility as well, at least in one direction, so they can, I think they can use their nose in one direction and their eyes in the other. Definitely an interesting spot. There's a nice little oak tree right here, but boy, that would be pretty gutsy. That's 50 yards. nice thing about that oak there is that, ooh, a little deep water here. Lost my train of thought. The nice thing about this oak is, with this trail coming from this island as well, if you're wrong and he isn't bedded here and he happens to be bedded up on that other island and something comes off that island, you get a poke at that one as well. But again, I'm going to tell you, this is a gutsy setup here. It would be a good setup for a rainy, wet day where everything was quiet. "40 yards, that's tight, but there is a lot of brush there. But boy, you wouldn't, if you set up here, you wouldn't be able to make any noise. It'd have to be the perfect set. Boy, this is a nice spot for it though. Here's a trail coming right off the swamp here. Yeah, this would definitely be one for a very windy or very windy rainy day, whatever, because that's close, because that our oak with the bed in it is right there. And that's close. Person could drop back here another 15 yards. It pays to take the time to really look these over. This is kind of the main run. If he's coming in this way, I would almost like to be off on the side a little bit more. This would be perfect. Our tree is over there, and if they came around and hit that run, you could get a shot at them. And the wind is normally going to be coming from this direction like this, so you would almost have a sense of you could hunt it on that wind, and you would probably have a sense of safety, feeling like that's where the normal traffic comes from. Gives me a lot more coverage to that. But this is the decision I need to make ahead of time. And normally when I would do this I would be setting this up now. I would be bringing my gear to climb, and I would be bringing a saw to trim some dead limbs or whatever out of the way, and set that up right now, and then I'm done. Then I don't have to come back. I don't have to make any more disturbance in this area. I won't come back until the day I hunt it. I have all the data. I got a tree picked out, set up. I know exactly how I want to access it. I would normally have taken this whole edge all the way back around and brought it back, but looking at my map, there's more interesting stuff up this way, and I only got about another hour and a half or so here, 2 hours maybe at most. So I want to try to make the best of it. I don't know when I'm going to get back out again. I'm expecting to find beds all over on this island here, but again, it's a big island and there's a lot of movement and activity on it. I wouldn't expect a decent buck to be bedded on here, but it's worth checking. Sometimes on a little bit bigger island, you'll find a little brushy point off of that island, and that's where you'll find some activity. I want to stay on this edge and out into the swamp a little ways and look for them little humps. Again, there's a heck of a run coming through here too. I don't know if this is from people again or not. Probably a little of both. This is my kind of area. Now I'm getting to where I want to be. This is where most guys give up. And this is where I just want to get started. That tree right ahead of me there, I want to go check that spot out. Actually, any of them high humps out there. Just feels like deer when you get these spots like this. Again, I'm watching for food sources. There's a lot of this red brush here, which is a good sign. Deer have to have something to eat. Fortunately, you look at a woods, you think there's so much vegetation that the deer have plenty to eat, but in all reality, a lot of the stuff is not all that edible for them or all that nutritious. Look at this bed area here. Wow. Something's been laying here quite a bit. I don't see any rubs, but I'm going to mark it just the same. Here's a dandy rub right here. Look at this. Somebody posted one on the internet that looked just like this. I wonder if I'm in the same spot. Look at that. Boy, he worked that up hard. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. Boy, he really worked that hard. Here's the thing I learned about rubs though. Rubs are a good indication that a buck travels an area. It'll show you direction. It'll show you trails that he likes to take, which is all good things. But oftentimes these rubs get made during the rut, and that buck may have traveled 4 or 5 miles to get to this spot, and all it takes is a doe to be in here or another buck, Something where it gets him a little excited, a little scent, and he'll stop and he'll rub up a tree hard. If he's following a doe in heat, they get agitated sometimes and they'll start rubbing stuff up too. So you have to take them for what they're worth. Now if you find a cluster of them in an area just off of a bedding area, then it's probably a good indication that he's bedding there quite often, because he's rubbing quite often. So it's in reading the sign that's going to help to make you successful and avoid maybe hunts that aren't. Like, take for instance that rub back there. Now this is a good area here for a deer to bed, but I haven't found anything to tell me to hunt this yet, even though there was a really nice rub. That's the nicest rub I've seen out here since I've been out here. The thing I don't like about this scenario is these are almost like I call these through islands. From the very end where we've been running all the way down this ridge, all the way through, and I can see it continues on down the line, next, and then there's the mainland down there. So bucks, I just don't see them bedding in a situation like this. Now if I bump off to the side here 40-50 yards in the brush off on the edge away from this line of travel, yeah, then maybe. Seeing where now that came through all the way, kind of, it's probably not going to show up real well, but there's kind of a line of trees going all the way through there. It's a good travel area for the deer, but I would say, like out here, would be where you're going to find your big buck pulled out away from everybody else, away from the normal travel. And believe me, they don't have a problem walking for miles, so for them to pull out in the middle of a swamp like this, 200 yards off of a run like that, that's nothing to them. Now we're getting somewhere. Looky what I found. Look at this. I don't know if the camera, I apologize, I'm doing the best I can. That I don't know, 3.5 inch diameter tree, and really gouged, really ripped into hard. That's exciting. See, remember what I said? I came in on there, and again, I shouldn't keep apologizing, but I know the camera doesn't do justice. But take my word for it, there's like a line of trees that go all the way across, all the way to that island there, and then back to the mainland. And again, that's a line of through, what I call through islands, where the deer like to travel through that area. Very seldom will I ever see a good buck bed on that scenario. But when I was over there and I saw this little island kind of out in the way, I said, this is a good spot. And lo and behold, I walk out here and I find the best rub of the day. Oh, and then there's one back here. And there's some older ones too as well, but those are pretty old. So this kind of tells me I'm getting a little bit closer maybe to a spot I might want to throw a hunt at. Here's another. That buck rubbed here too. Another thing too, these rubs are like a fingerprint. Now see how he's doing some really deep gouging on there. He did some really deep gouging. And then if you look at this other one, that's the same. Well, here's his bed right here. Here's where he's laying. Right here. Right next to this tree. Right here. At least one bed. Getting back to this rub, there was gouging on that one. I noticed on that one. On this one, the same way. See that? How? Hope the camera gets it. He's ripping and gouging hard. See, now I'll know this buck if I see more of his rubs, because he'll have a tendency to pick on the same size trees, same type of trees, and his rub will look the same. His rubs will have those big gouge marks in it, and that's something to note. And if you're really trying to dissect an area, it would be wise to take pictures of those rubs, so that you can remember what they look like if you want to take a look at them again. There's a spot here as well. I don't know if that's a bed or not, but I do want to mark this spot here though. Sad part about this is I do this all the time. I come out here and I find spots, and then in the early fall of the year, when I should be hunting, I'm working. I hope you guys can't see my GPS coordinates on this. I'll have 50 guys out here sitting in this tree. The problem with a situation like this though is, how do you hunt this? I'm going to assume that he's going to head toward the main land. But how he goes there, I don't know. But that being said, I think the way to hunt this would be to be from the outside in. Now, you've got the main land over there. A person should walk from here to that main land and see if there's any runs that go in there. Now, there was some runs coming out of here. He might go and hit that line, and then he might come in over there. But the smart way to probably hunt this would be to set up a observation stand somewhere and then see what you could see. Like, I'm looking all the way across back by them islands where I started. There's one big popple tree over there, and it's wide open across the swamp from here to there. And a person could throw up an observation stand in there. That deer would never know that you were there, and you could watch this island here and see if you can detect any movement, see if you can pick him up. That would be the wise way to do it. And if he's using this bedding area, you'll see him moving at some point, and then you can make your move. You can decide how he's using this, or how he's accessing the mainland, and then make your move. Thing with these deer is, once they know you're on them, they get pretty hard to kill. And you could set up an observation on the mainland as well, but the problem with doing that would be, if you set up an observation stand and you miss, You guess wrong. And he makes his move. He might hear you or see you backing out at the end of the hunt, or he may come up on that mainland and he may smell you where you were, and that might deter him. That might keep him in his bed longer, or at least in this bedding area longer. So if I was going to set up an observation stand, I would probably not try to combine it with a hunt. One thing I noticed about these older, bigger bucks too is they like to find an area like this where they can walk, where it's wide open and they don't have to worry about trees. They try to avoid trees, it seems like. I think they're used to being hunted. And they can walk. He can walk right in and curl right up and lay underneath that tree there where that bed is, and he can walk in the wide open the rest of the way. The way this area is pressured, I would be a bit surprised if he hits that main land before well after dark. Here's a bed right here. Another bed right here. But that's right there is the trees where he was rubbing up, so there's more than one deer bedding here most likely as well, but or he may move around depending on wind and the sun, temperature. Here's another spot where deer laid down. And I've noticed they like to get up every few hours and move around a little bit, and then go to the bathroom and stretch their legs, and then they'll lay back down again. Many times when I'm tracking deer, I see when I find an empty bed, I've learned to be on my guard, because many times when you find an empty bed, he's only 20-30 yards away in another bed. He'll get up and relocate and lay back down again. There's more rubs here. Smaller rubs. That ain't the same deer, I don't think. Could be though. Just because they're small doesn't mean it ain't him. Part of the problem with a situation like this is, where is he laying? When he's got a lot of choices, it makes it a little tougher to narrow him down. The one thing I do know though is I came from over there and it was all wide open oaks. He won't be there, not during the light of day. I can cross that area right off my list of bird hunters, and squirrel hunters will be in there. Bow hunters. Another thing I've seen is you've got these established bedding areas and so forth, but if the rifle season comes on and a couple of guys decide to push through this or whatever, those deer will run right out into the open, and they'll find a little clump and they'll lay right down where there's no established bed or anything. They'll just run right out there somewhere and they'll just lay down. And so that makes it kind of tough. But I'm a tracker, so this knowledge may be good for bed hunting or for archery hunting, but this knowledge is also very good for tracking. Now if I was to come out here, this is a big enough piece for me to mess around with. I would come and walk through these areas, because that buck's going to use those runs to get out here, and if you can cut his track heading out into this stuff, you got a pretty good chance of shooting him if you jump him out here. There's beds here. There's good beds here. Something's laying down here. There's a rub right there. I kind of like this spot more than any of the other ones so far because it's kind of on its own. This just kind of feels right. This is far enough away from everything. That deer can bed. There's a rub right here. I walked right by it. And there's some sizable deer droppings there. So there's a big deer. Mature deer for sure. Couple that with all these rubs being in here. I like this spot a lot. Oh yeah, and there's some more rubs on that willow brush right there. Another rub. Very low to the ground, very small tree, small deer. Looks like deer might have been bedding in here. This is a nice spot. This is a nice little bedding area right here. Another bed right here. This is kind of on a line though. There's a line of brush that kind of goes back toward the mainland, but this is kind of the end of that point to a degree. So if I had to pick one spot out of all the stuff that I saw, there's beds here too. Deer are laying down in here. If I had to pick one spot out of all the stuff I saw so far today, this would be it. Nice rub there. Beat that up a little bit. Another bed right here. This is kind of the end of the line right here. I don't see a lot of, not much of a trail. I guess it pushes through there yet, but there's a bed right. I'm standing right in it. Tell you what I like to, what these deer like to do though. The bigger bucks, when they come to, they like to come in. Instead of walking down the line like that, they like to come in from the outside like this and get out in the open. Seems like a run. There's a trail coming in here. Just easier for them. They're lazy. And then once they get out on this edge, then they can walk really nice and easy. Yeah, see here, there's a trail running right along the edge of this. If it's a decent buck and he's got a good rack on his head, he'll want to walk right here instead of trying to walk through that brush. Then he'll just push in there somewhere and then lay down. See, if I was a big buck, I'd walk right here, right on this edge of this. I'd walk it right along, go in and find your spot and lay down. Another thing I did 2 days in a row now that is a big no-no for me is 2 days in a row I walked out in the woods without a compass. If I keep playing with fire, eventually I'll get burnt. You know, there's a nice trail coming out. This is the spot right here. If you wanted to hunt this, I gotta get my body turned camera. If you wanted to hunt this here, if you wanted to throw a stand up at this here thing and hunt it, this would be my choice. Right here, this trail right here. Now there might be many trails along there that come across, but I like this one right on the point here. I think it would be too gutsy to get on that island. But those 3 trees right there, Boy, if you had a wet, windy day or something. If not, we take this trail back and find the closest spot here on the mainland. There's some rubs there. That's telling me that the buck is using this to access. I think right there. That tree right there. It'd be nice if you could be off on the side a little bit more and catch them broadside coming by, but beggars can't be choosers. And here's your trail coming right in. There's a lot of ways you can hunt this thing. You could bring one guy around on the mainland and post him up here with a rifle. And then you could send one guy on the same walk that I just took. 2 men could push that. One standing and one walking. Now there'd be a lot of deer probably get around you, but if you got one up and he come down that trail, there'd be even back straps. Notice there's a trail right along the edge of this break out in the swamp area open here. That's where the big bucks like to walk. Nice easy walking, wide open. They got visibility for danger. See, most guys, if they came out here to scout today, they would have been in there. They would have been in where there's big trees, walking around where there's trees. And they're not going to kill deer. Maybe does, small bucks. As I was learning to hunt, one of my goals was to shoot a trophy deer, and that wasn't happening. So the old saying goes, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I kind of had my own twist on that, and I would say if I'm hunting a certain way and it's not producing a trophy deer, then I need to do something different, because that method is not working. And by process of elimination, I taught myself what did work. So any of the younger guys watching this video, if you're not producing a trophy deer and you want one, then you need to ask yourself, if my system isn't working, then I need to adapt it. I need to change it. How can I change my system? Here's a nice first decent scrape. Branch busted off. And down here, worked hard. When I was younger, I recall thinking, which was a mistake, which I adjusted, that it was just a matter of time. If I just hunted harder, if I hunted longer, if I put in more hours, eventually Lady Luck would swing my way and I would kill a big deer. The problem with that philosophy that I discovered was that was almost an impossibility to happen because I wasn't killing big deer, because I wasn't in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. And since that was the case, if I continued to do that, I could hunt endless hours and I was never going to produce. There's always the chance of absolute luck playing a role, but luck is only going to shine down on you once in a very great while. And if your goal is to shoot trophy deer year after year, you have to stop relying on that method, which that is a method. There's a lot of rut activity on this edge. There's another scrape here again. So that's a very good thing to keep in mind. When the rut comes on, you've got all that bedding out there that we walked through. And now you've got an edge with a well-worn trail with rut activity. So this might be an edge that would be worth putting some time on. The phone call I had earlier was Troy Spooner. And for those of you that don't know Troy Spooner, he's from Michigan. And he's killed an awful lot of trophy deer. And he has a website called Old School Whitetails. And what he promotes is the old school methods of hunting. Not a lot of fancy gear, not a lot of special gimmicks or anything of that nature. Just the old school method of getting out and learning how to read sign, set up with a bare amount of gear and produce deer. He's got a lot of really good information over there. So if you guys want something to do someday, check it out. It's, I think it's called www.oldschoolwhitetails.com. Okay, now I broke away from my edge and I'm back in the oaks where the normal deer hunters hunt. See, deer hunters like to get on an oak ridge like this, and there's a big trail running right, I'm walking on right now, really big heavy trail, you can't miss it, running right down through this ridge, and it forks and it goes that way, and it forks over and goes this way. And in the old days, that would have been, oh goodness, look at that, I would have been all excited, and I would have been looking around right here for a good spot to put up a tree stand and then hope that I would shoot a deer. And I saw deer. I killed deer. Killed does, small bucks. But it's pretty hard to get a 4-year-old buck out on this wide open oak ridge during the light of day after he's been hunted hard for 4 years. Here's a big trail running right through here. I think this was the big man trail that everybody uses to access. I believe if I keep walking on this, I'm going to end up right back where I started. I probably should check my map here though, because it's getting to that point of day where I don't really want to get too off track. I would like to see my recliner sometime tonight. And since Goofy me didn't bring a compass,